Well, I've mentioned my sister before. I've said she's crafty, and she is. Um, and when she was, I guess, about to go to university, she started making these stuffed animals. It's interesting to see what stays around and what doesn't. What goes, like what I look around at my desk, and some of the stuff has been on my desk for, I don't know, 40 years. It's amazing. Like I have a little stone, which I'll show you tomorrow, in the shape of a mole that a teacher of mine gave me. And, I've just had it forever. And so this little bird, or burb as they call him on Imager. His name is Max. I didn't remember his name is Max, but there he is, you can see. Or it looks like Zam, which you know is Max. And he has little his wings, and what you're hearing is bells, little bells, inside a bottle. So inside of good old Max here, so you could throw him up and catch him. And I think that's probably the first thing I did when she handed him to me to show me what she'd been doing. And I was like, oh man, we're so laissez-faire about other people's. I'll turn him so you can see his profile. Yeah, he's very friendly. Oh, and he's been around for 40, must be 40 years, more, and going strong. Max is good. He's a happy burb, and he's made it through God knows how many moves. Oh, Jesus. I mean, he kept surviving. That's the thing about these objects, is that they have to survive, one move after another, and then they have to come out, and be replaced and refound. And other things, just you have them I have them on my desk for a couple of months, and then, that's it. But some things have this persistence. Yeah, they last. It's such a funny thing. You can't make memory happen. It just happens on its own. And then you think, oh, I wonder how that. I mean, I can see why. He's great. He's a great bird, and it's very much a token of a particular time and a particular place, and was good. And it was her early efforts and what she was going to, become extremely good at, and she was good at it then. I couldn't do that now. Jeez, I can barely get my zipper together. Or apart. So, yeah. Though it's interesting to see what things last. When I was in New York, the last time I was in New York, I got my father a paperweight. It was like most fathers. It was impossible to buy for him. He didn't want anything. He just worked, and you could buy him a book. Buy him a book on biophysics or biology. Oh, thank you, Tim. Thank you for that, Tim. That's very good. Or you could get him a nice bottle of wine. Oh, thank you. I'll enjoy that. Yeah. Or some chocolate. That was about it. So I got him this paperweight. Yeah. And he used to love quoting some aphorisms. This is now what people sort of call dad humor, dad jokes. But this person makes the same joke every time. And of course, you love the person for that, but they also drive you nuts. And he had a couple that were, every dad has a couple. Anyway, so I got him this. It's a block. It's a pewter block. You can see it, and it has the maker's mark on the back. It's like a hallmark. And I liked it because it was heavy and it was simple, and it was good design. I got it at the Museum of Modern Art, and they often have things which are very shishi, and you're like, Jesus, who would want that? I mean, I would take it home and throw it right out. It's like I would just walk right through the house. In this case, walk right through the apartment and put it right in a dumpster. It's like, there you go. I brought you all the way home from New York, and now you're in a dumpster in Canada. Happy landings. It's so, pretentious. But other things, they're really nice. And anyway, so this is an Emerson. So he loved Emerson. And Emerson is an American poet, transcendentalist, and essayist. He was also a reverend. And everything Emerson wrote lends itself to enormous sort of repeating of little bon mots of wisdom, that will make you a better person and all that. And I'm guilty of using a few of them myself. Actually, I think I sent out to one of the groups. There's a famous Emerson quotation about travelers. And he says, "Woe betide the traveler who says anywhere but here." Yeah, which is, this the thing about Emerson is like he's also right. That's why these aphorisms stick around, is because they're true. There's a truth to them. So, yeah. So I'm sure we've all met people who are they just have to keep moving, and they anywhere but here. Yeah. They'll be happy somewhere else. Anywhere but here. Anyway, so this has stamped in it, every wall is a door, which is very, I don't know, it's very 19th century, but it's also very sort of late 20th, early 21st century. It's part of what I think of as the Gwyneth Paltrow sort of school of life, where you sort of get through life by painting, something on your wall that says, live, laugh, love, pay your library fines, buy toilet paper. The secrets to happiness, you put big letters up on your wall. Pain management. Pay your bills. Tithe. Yeah, don't fuck up. I pay that. I pay to see that at wherever you get these things. Not like, it's usually Bed Bath and Beyond or something like that, or whatever. There's these cheesy pottery barn like stores, and you go in and there's some copywriter's metaphor for life up on the wall. And somebody says, we should put that up on our wall in case we forget. That's the point, remember to be grateful. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm remembering. I just don't want it up on my wall as some kind of oh yeah, I've got to laugh now. I'm loving. I haven't laughed. Gotta laugh. Oh, time to laugh. It's 11 o'clock. Get laughing. Anyway, so every wall is a door. And then on this side part, it says Ralph Waldo Emerson. Okay, so I saw this, and I had been looking for something for him the whole time we're in New York. And we went everywhere. We went, oh my God, we were out on when you're in New York, as you know, time is of the essence, and you just drag yourself around the city until you don't have any shoe leather left and until you're just exhausted. And you're like, oh, one more museum, but one more museum we must. And so off you go. And so finally I was like, okay, I can bring him this. And so I thought he would really like it. I thought, yeah, this is the right thing. Yeah. So I went back and got it. Like I dithered about it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to bloody get this because I don't see anything else. So I went back and got it. And he would, of course, been happy with nothing. I mean, this wasn't his problem. This was my problem. He was fine. He's like, oh, I'd gone away. He was like, that's good. Go away. Leave me in peace. Let me, yeah, go. Let me get some work done, for Christ's sakes. You bother me. Yeah. So anyway, every wall is a door. So I gave it to him. It was in a little box, tissue paper or the usual. And he opened it and he said, oh, very good. Quintessential dad. And then, also quintessential dad, there was a moment's pause and he says, that's not true, Oh, man, that was perfect. Like, I thought he would completely drop anchor with this thing, and he's like, no, he saw it right. He's like, no, I'm not buying that. It's not true. It's like, of course it's not true. Oh, yes, everything that confronts you is a door to something else. It's like, no, sometimes a wall is a fucking wall, and that's it. You gotta figure it another way around. And that sucks. But then you do figure it another way around. So that, of course, is the door, right? That's the point. The wall that prevents you from doing whatever it was becomes a door to something new. And yeah, we got it. I'm not putting that up on the wall or the door. I should put, that's what I should be doing. I should paint up on the wall, this is a door. Then I should paint on the door, this is a wall. He would have seen the humor in that, I think. Or maybe not. He would have said, actually, he wouldn't have said anything about it. He would have just noticed me doing it. He would have been, oh, okay, whatever. There's my crazy son. There's my son who did the complete opposite of what I've done in my life, and I don't know what he's doing. But he always respected it. It was very good. We were completely. One day he asked me, what are you doing now? And I said, oh, I'm taking a course, amongst other things, I was taking a course on hermeneutics. And hermeneutics is the study of closed texts. So texts that you don't have any access into, like, wow, how did that happen? Like the Bible. And any similar document. And but hermeneutics is typically was designed to deal with biblical interpretation. Not that I was a religious scholar or really in any way interested. Oh, well, that's not true. I was interested because I could see that the Bibles, the Quran, the Asian books of wisdom, and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and the Buddhist, the sutras, the writings, and the teachings were all, very formative. Whether or not I was pretty interested in exploring them for the rest of my life, they were incredibly formative, and they were, wherever you looked, it's like, somebody was working out of this playbook, and it's important to know the playbook. So anyway, I was taking a course on hermeneutics, which is basically about, the sort of the trends in interpretation. This is like a theory course, and everybody has probably had to take a theory course at some point, and there's usually a theory group of theories that goes along with a discipline. So if you're in music, you need to know music theory. So what are the different theories about music? And if you're in history, it's like, well, what are the different ways of interpreting history? And what are the styles of interpreting history? And if you're in political science, that. And if you're in engineering, even, of course, in engineering, what's the history of engineering? And more to the point, what's the history of the way we think about engineering? The philosophy, if you will, of engineering, I guess. And so that produces it. So anyway, this is basically the method for dealing with religious texts. And it was 2,000 years of history. I mean, it was an amazing course. It was taught by this guy who just, wow. I mean, he was so incredibly important to my learning how to learn and think and write and solve problems and man. So Barry Wilson. Also a really fine writer, one of those academic writers who you're like, why doesn't everybody write like this? It just gets out of its own way, it's clear, it's not affected, he's not like, hey, dig me, I'm a big man, I can use $90,000 words. Like, oh. Some of this stuff I look back and I think, wow, boy, that was... Anyway, but, okay, So he said, okay, well, what is that? And I said, well, blah, that's where hermeneutics is. And he said, yeah, that's fascinating. It's crazy, but it's fascinating. Yeah. But he was always very good about it, always very supportive. So he probably just would have, if I'd been painting up on a wall, this is a door, he would have been like, okay. I don't think he would have said anything about it particularly. He might have said, why are you doing that? It's going to peel. Like he might have said something about the problems with why I was doing it at this. I'm concerned that may not stick, Tim. But he wouldn't be concerned about the message. Like, oh, it's just content. Form, yeah, content. So, yeah. I meant to talk about, yes, that's right, this is the mug. This is a great mug because it actually has Mickey through the ages, and so I have a real this is Steamboat Willie Mickey, right? So it should be 1928. Yeah, 1928. And you'll notice the font is also in the same style, and then we get to 1931, so it's a grotesque font. Yeah, it's sans serif. And 1940 is, newer. This is Fantasia Mickey, and then this is the nifty 90s, if you know that. So it's the beginning of at this point they'd really hit their stride. And then the Brave Little Tailor, and then the sort of late period Mickey when he'd become this complete, luxury sedan of design. There wasn't anything. They'd smooth out every single wrinkle there was, or mousetail. Anyway, it's an interesting. I like this cup because it has and they're all drawing each other, which is another one of those, quintessential grad student. Got to have that because it's self-referential, sort of pieces of art. I must have that. It's self-referential. But yeah, these early, if you see these early the Steamboat Willie and the early black and white Mickeys, and then the early color Mickeys, before basically he got any color in his face, before you notice he became basically a white guy. Before that, he was just white, the way most of the cartoons from were. So Betty Boop and Coco the Clown, and most of them were white. They just didn't. It was like that was the skin color. White they were white, because it was race. I mean, that was how they dealt with race. There's a lot of heart in those early. Oh, they're rough and they're raw and they're angular, and he looks more like a rat sort of thing. But there's real guts in there. It's sort of genuine, sort of rough. And you get a sense of Disney. Who Disney was. As a young guy, sort of much more prone to rough, tough humor. It was pretty raw. It was pretty brutal. Anyway, very much from the times. Animation of the 20s was fascinatingly gritty, and it was about sex. It was about drinking, drugs. You name it. Murder, racism, although they tended to portray race, typically badly. This concept of seeing things differently, I'm some couple of years ago, we had a cat who he was having trouble with one of his eyes, and this just kept on and kept on, and it kept, we would deal with it, and for years we dealt with it, and then finally we had to go to see the guru on the mountain, who was a veterinary eye specialist. All he does is eyes, and this guy is just outside of London here. He's famous, and he's a very interesting too. We had to go out. Oh my God! Thank God for the GPS on the phone. It's hard to navigate those roads if you don't know them. They're not marked at all. They're like, wayfinding? What's that? We don't care. If you get lost out here, it's because you're from the city. The city, which is anything bigger than 30 houses. And if you get lost, they don't care. They're like, oh, fine, you're out in Komoka, which sounds like it's about 90,000 miles away, right? No. Feels like it, though. You get out there, you're like, holy Jesus. This is deliverance country. I'm just waiting to hear the banjo. Deliverance jokes. You may not get those. You have to see Deliverance at one point in your life, or maybe not. I don't know. I think it's worthwhile. It's a rite of passage. Anyway, this guy. So they sent us out there. They were like, "You must go and see." So we took the poor cat. I was like, "Where are we going now? Like, this is so far." He's like, "All right, I give up." He was a very good guy. He was a wonderful cat, and but at a certain point, he was just like, "I give up." It's like that joke about the the parrot, the magician who has the parrot, and he's inherited. I can't remember how he gets the parrot, but the parrot he's long. The magician's this long-suffering magician, and the parrot always blows the trick. And so the magician does a trick, and the parrot will say, "Oh, it's up his sleeve," and he's like, "Where's it go? That's not fun." And he's like, he makes an egg disappear, and they're like, "Oh, he dropped it on the floor." Like, so the magician's like, he's gonna kill this parrot, but at the same time, the parrot, I cannot remember why the details. He's got to say that he can't bring himself to kill the parrot for some reason. Okay, whatever, or get rid of it. Like, just give it away. But no, there wouldn't be a joke otherwise. So they go on a cruise, and the magician signs on as to be a magician on a cruise. Okay, and the magician has never fooled a parrot. So on the first day, they're like, the magician's doing jokes, tricks, and the parrot's like, it's just a fake flower. And the magician's like, oh, and everybody goes, oh, groans, and they all leave. On the second day, same thing. On the third day, the ship sinks, and they're like, whoa, and they get into the lifeboats, and they're all, bobbing around in the ocean, waiting for somebody to come and save them. And the parrot doesn't say anything. And on the second day, they're bobbing around in the ocean. The parrot doesn't say anything. And on the third day, the parrot says, all right, I give up. What'd you do with the ship? So I bet nobody laughs at that joke. And that's okay. I've told you, I can't tell jokes. So the good thing about this is I'm not offended. Well, first of all, because I know I can't tell jokes. And second, because I'm not there, right? I'm here, having this virtual experience. As McLuhan used to say. He would get these, I can't remember, it was not Dick Cavett, but Johnny Carson. No, it was one of those people from, it was like Walter Cronkite. And he phones in or something like that for an interview, and he says, do you realize, Walter, that right at the moment I am a discarnate being? And Walter's like, oh, is that right, Professor? Yes, because he's virtual, basically. That's his point. He's on the phone, so he's not incarnate. He's not there. He's discarnate. He's only being represented by his voice, so he's a discarnate being. It's quintessentially Catholic, which McLuhan was. Anyway, so out we go to see this vet, and he proves to be a very nice guy, very, very calm, like many vets are. And all he does is eyes. that's, dogs and cats. They're mostly dogs, actually. So he looks and he says, okay, we're going to do this. And he gives us a course of treatment. And so, the thing progressed. It was interesting, though, the first time, and actually every time I saw him after that with the cat, he also works with Jane Goodall. And he brings Jane Goodall here to London and has her talk at Western, which is neat in itself. And he goes to the Rift Valley. I think that's where her mission is, or basically her. I think it's in. I can't remember at the moment, but she's got this. I think it's Virunga. And I said, "Do you go?" And he's like, "Yeah, I go. I go once a year. I go for a month, and I just volunteer my services." And I was like, "Wow, okay, good for you. Like that's amazing. And what is it like to be in Africa?" And he said, "It's amazing." Okay, yeah. What's it like to know Jane Goodall? She's amazing. I'm like, okay. Do you have any other words than amazing? He's like, no, I'm a vet. Every wall is a door. Anyway, every wall is a wall. But he was a very nice guy. And so there was this one time, so he had to turn off the lights. You can look in the cat's eye. He would turn off the lights, and then he would he had all this steampunk gear that he would put on and, look in the cat's eye, and he would have his different lights, and he would put dye in the eye and then put on different blue lights, and, so you could see everything. And I was standing there looking at him, watching him look in like Maurice's eye. The cat's name was Maurice. And I suddenly realized that, the way that he looked at Maurice's eye was so educated and specialized and amazing. And then here's this astonishing vision that here was this guy who, probably in his, maybe mid-50s, had spent at least probably 30 years, assuming that he graduated in his late 20s. And somewhere in there became specialized. So maybe 20 years specializing in ophthalmology for animals. And he had spent, let's say, 20 years looking at animals' eyes. And so here was this amazing amount of information and experience and wisdom, for want of a better word. I mean, this is what they call expert systems, right? Where you've got an expert, and you can't quantify what is in the expert's head because you have no idea, right? We have no idea how they see. We just know that they see. They see the world differently than we do. Now we all see the world differently, that's for sure. But this is really something else, because so when he looked in Maurice's eye, what was he seeing? I couldn't even imagine. I could imagine he was looking at the sort of physical issues. But then after that, what did he see? And what was going on in his head when all of this, when he was seeing, basically, and he was making things of what was wrong and what might be wrong, and how to treat it, and what to tell me, and how to deal with the patient. The patient isn't the cat, but how to deal with the patient's owner, what to tell, how to figure out a game plan for how to deal with this and play the odds, and what were the odds, and all that stuff is going on, and so it was one of those epiphany. It was a moment of an epiphany where one is aware that other people see things differently than we see things. Yeah. But this was so utterly different. And there he was just looking. He wasn't saying anything. He wasn't keeping up a patter to keep me happy. He was just looking at the eye. And he was looking, he was getting a sense of the animal and what kind of health was Maurice in, and what could he take, and what could he tolerate, and it was amazing. So that was one of those moments where something became something else. And I'm not sure that a wall became a door, but I think that suddenly that world opened for a moment, and I had this sort of just understanding of how little I understood. An understanding that I didn't understand, I think. And it was remarkable because I was like, yeah, this is science. But it's also expertise, and it's wisdom, and it's having a feel for the animal, because it's medicine, and it's got to be holistic. I mean, you can't just treat an animal and say, "Oh, we solved the problem," but as they used to say in the 19th century, the operation was a success, but the patient died. Mostly because, as I understand it, or a lot of times, because they didn't have anesthesia that worked, and the body just couldn't take it. So it's one of those little things about, how do we see and how do other people see. And I think I had to have that huge gap between me and this guy to understand that we did not at all see the same world. We lived in the same world, but maybe even not that, right? That if he saw things so differently, he wasn't living in the world I was living in, and vice versa. We were in entirely different worlds, and there we were, 2 or 3 feet apart, connected by good old Maurice, who was like, "What the hell are you idiots doing to my face?" And so I think when we look around, especially these days, reading the news, and I think, well, we have to be able to connect with other people reasonably quickly, I think, if we're going to not become sort of brutes, thugs, or just not care about the rest of the world. Just care about our own little group, or as long as we're okay, that's everything else is okay. But if we're not going to be selfish monsters, then part of this is understanding how different it is for other people. And I think that we assume that the people we grew up with, or that we've known, you've gone through school with, and you know them, you know who they are. It's like, hold up on that. You might want to back up on that, saying, yes, I understand you. Put those aphorisms down and back away. Back away from the aphorisms. Back away from the little received pieces of wisdom, because maybe they're blinding you to what the person beside you is really going through, which you'll never know. Get closer to it. Getting closer. So this is a time to get closer to people, ironically. Which is, it's a good thing.